pre-contractual instruments that you have studied, the main confusion that is the reason why these facts are drafted in this manner, actually to confuse. The moment you see that the confidentiality clause is very important for the parties, you just go ahead and assume that it is going to be a non-disclosure agreement. Fair enough, not a problem. But in these both situations, there is something else that you need to keep in mind. Okay, what is it? The parties involved here, for example, here the Kiran Beverages first party and the second party is Mr. Amit Roy, right? Okay? When it comes to these two parties, their intention is not only to keep the information confidential. They also want to talk at large in the instrument of the arrangement that they are entering into with each other. Okay? Just for now, we have a class on NDA also. You don't need to worry. You don't need to go into the details of a non-disclosure agreement out here. Just remember this much. NDA or non-disclosure agreement has a very unilateral single purpose. That is to protect your confidential information. Nothing else. NDA does not serve any other purpose but to protect your confidential information. When I want to capture something up and above the confidential information, I will always go for a memorandum of understanding, because memorandum of understanding is a much larger document which can capture much more than just confidential information. So in both these cases, you will observe there's a common thing. Besides keeping the information confidential, the parties want to basically have a larger purpose of, that is, they want to capture the kind of arrangement that they want to enter at this stage, test the water at this stage, understand how the arrangement is working. Basis that, they will basically go for a permanent binding agreement tomorrow. Okay? So this is the simple reason why in both these cases you are going to focus on MOU rather than ND. Okay, now let's understand the drafting part. Okay? Now, first drafting assignment. Okay? Perfect. It won't be perfect. So it's fine. Like people who come with some sort of experience, it will be a cakewalk for them, because we have asked like the most basic clauses today. Okay? For those who are starting this afresh, this is actually just the starting point. So if you don't get it, it's wrong. There's some formatting error, there's some content concept-wise error. You don't need to start just panicking right away. Okay? Treat this as a learning process. Trust the entire process. Okay? You have to trust yourself. You have to trust the process. Before you start like right away drafting, there are two things which is absolutely essential that you need to practice. If you incorporate this even for the first assignment, you will notice the difference, I can guarantee you. Okay? So try to please follow this methodology. There's a reason why I'm starting with drafting exercises from day one, because I want you guys to have this practice since day one. I could not give you this task which I wanted to in the checklist, so today I will discuss this very briefly. Certain points that you need to basically keep in mind. Where don't go to the chat box, nothing. Okay, please give me 10 minutes to talk, and after that, I will not run away without taking questions, right? Okay, so just give me 10 minutes, focus, pura pinpointed focus you keep here. Okay? First is, always remember that whenever we are talking, practically think about it. Like today when I talk to a client, let's say there to tomorrow I am your client, I have approached you as a lawyer. I will go and discuss background kya hai, mujhe kya chahiye, what I want, basically everything I have to discuss with you. Now this conversation may last for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Okay? All of these 4 hours conversation, suppose I have had with a client, I am not going to go and capture everything in the agreement. I am not writing a story or literature out here. My objective is to be very, very clear with what I have to capture. What are the legal aspects of this document, the clauses that I am going to capture. Okay? So I have to make sense of what exactly, kitna information I have to keep in my brain and kitna I can just throw it out. Like during the conversation, he may introduce himself, he may talk about his family, certain background. Nahi chahiye bakwas information, just get it out of there. very important, and the first step is whenever you have a practical client, you need to have the practice of making a list of the important facts that you need to take a note of. Similarly, whenever we are giving you drafting exercises, we will follow it with probably a very big factual matrix. Everything from the factual matrix is not important. So the first thing you need to understand from the factual matrix is what information or the facts I have to capture which has legal implications in my document, okay, and just phase out the rest of the facts. So this is the first thing that you need to do. Secondly, there are certain terms which we have already defined. Okay, can anybody tell me two important defined terms? First scenario, say, can anybody tell me a couple of defined terminologies? Just two terms which have already been defined. Quickly, tell me that. Very easy, yeah? Anybody? No one? Fine. Okay, कोई बात नहीं, no problem. First party. हाँ, correct. Second party, first party. Right. Two terms which we have like just defined it. So यहाँ पे देखो. Define terms, how to identify terms which are already defined, it's going to be capitalized. ठीक है? That's it. जो नहीं defined है, which you are defining, exactly this is how you are going to define it. ठीक है? Like I have defined it, and everywhere you're using these terms now, first party, product, second party, ठीक है? All of these terms you are going to exactly write as it is, as in capital letters. Remember, always. Define terms, nowhere you are going to write without capitalization. That's wrong. That's an error. Okay? Alright. So first party, product, second party. These are the terms which are already defined. Okay? Now, after this step, after you have already identified what are the terms that are defined, you make a small note of it because you have to write it down. Secondly, make a list or try to identify the terms that you have to define. For example, we have asked you to draft the confidentiality clause, correct? In that, we have not defined confidential information. We have not defined anything else. Okay? So these are the terms you have to first define, and then you can proceed about drafting it. Okay? So two corollary points here. One, make a list of the terms which are already defined. Make a list of the terms that you need to define. Okay? After that, understand these are the two steps that I want you to basically practice. I'll show what I mean by that. Okay? Every clause has certain basic requirements. Like suddenly if you ask me out of nowhere, like there's no background, kuch nahi hai, you just ask me, listen, confidentiality clause mein kya karna hota hai? What do I do in a confidentiality? There are certain limited ingredients that you can actually just identify in a confidentiality clause, and wherever you are, whatever be the background, these are the constant elements of a confidentiality clause. These elements will absolutely be there. According to the client requirements, now you are going to modify the information, but the constant list of ingredients is going to be the same across everywhere in your life. You are going to use the confidentiality clause. What are these elements? How do you break it down? First is the definition of confidential information. You need to first identify what information, like पूरा 4 घंटे का conversation तो नहीं confidential रख सकती ना? That's not possible, right? You can't keep like the entire, whatever conversation you had confidential. From that, you need to just identify the ambit of the definition of confidential information. For example, let's say here, what is the confidential information that the parties are trying to protect? They're basically how they operate their manufacturing units, right? The process basically. See, here the manufacturing units process or operate in full secrecy, okay? And basically, very exclusively, there are certain very selected manufacturers and distributors who are aware of this process. So absolutely, the definition of your confidential information will basically talk about the manufacturing process and all ancillary things that is related to the manufacturing process. ठीक है. So first obviously you need to understand or demarcate कि मुझे रखना confidential क्या है. What is the information that I keep confidential? That will come in your definition of confidential information. Secondly, obligation regarding the confidential information. First obligation is of course to keep the information safe, secure and confidential. ठीक है. There are certain ancillary obligations which I will deal with in your confidential non-disclosure agreement class. ठीक है. But obviously obligation will relate to any kind of obligation that you have, like क्या करना है मुझे confidential information का. ठीक है. And lastly, it will consist of certain exceptions. For example, if you have shared something important confidential information to me and I have kept it within the ambit of confidential information. Now suppose I have certain court order against it. मतलब कि the court has ordered that I have to disclose this confidential information. Absolutely, I have to do it, right? I cannot say कि मैंने confidentiality clause I had signed or an NDA I had signed, I will not disclose. You cannot do that. So even if by court's order I disclose this information, you cannot obviously hold me liable for breach in this case. So these are the exceptional situations which you capture at the end of the clause. ठीक है? Fine. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about preparing an ingredient list or a checklist for each individual clause. ठीक है? I'll show it to you in the exercise also. I have given you in the hints certain. One second, let me check. Here. So check this out. ठीक है? Check the hints. Like for example, recitals. What hints have I given you? Recitals are the introductory statements and all. This is the background. It contains of a statement of facts and the purpose of entering the agreement. ठीक है? So these are the ingredients that I have listed out already for the recital. Here, information which will be classified as confidential, ambit of confidential information, and how obligation of maintaining confidentiality is to be performed by the receiver. So here, 3 important ingredients I have already provided. Here, basically, the main ingredients is that what you have basically have to take into account is, for example, some ingredients which we have are the type of arrangement, background and future prospects, if any, in the proposed arrangement clause. Secondly, ingredients should consist of but not limited to the duration, events of default, notice period and termination. This is for the term and termination clause. So in this case, I have already in the hints spelled out to you what ingredients you are going to take care of. ठीक है? Fine. Up to here, did you understand what am I trying to say? Can you make sure you follow this practice? Practice this for the next 2 sessions and tell me, give me a candid feedback. If you feel that no, ma'am, it was no use, absolutely useless thing you have told us, I will take it. No worries. ठीक है? Pooja, I am just talking about breaking down the clauses into ingredients. For example, the confidentiality clause will have 3 ingredients, 3 important ingredients. Definition of confidential information, obligations of confidential information, and basically all the exceptional situations in which breach will not be constituted as a breach. ठीक है? Pooja, I'll share this document, don't worry. These are all written down in the document. Priya, same goes for you. ठीक है? Sonali, for now these both clauses are from both parties' perspective. We have not asked you any perspective as of now. So in general, both parties' perspective. For now, we will bifurcate this once we have proceeded. Very good, very good. Very good, Rashmi. So Rashmi has actually made a concise pointers of what I spoke. I'm just pasting it. Everybody have a look. ठीक है? Okay. Priya, same goes for you. The elements that I have broken down the clauses in, I have noted it down in the document. Once I share it, you just go through the document, understand how it is I'm going about it. After that, we can have a one-to-one discussion also on this if required. ठीक है? Okay, so please do this practice for the first 2 sessions, and after that, let me know if it is helping you or not. And there are certain other things, of course, that I will like to tell you once we start taking up more and more drafting. Acha. Now see, recital clause. Priya, pay attention to this. Okay? Here are the elements that we are going to capture in your recital clause. Who are the parties to the agreement? Who, why, what? 3 questions, 3 elements basically we can break down. Okay? When it comes to recital clauses. Who, why, and what? These are the 3 most important elements. Who are entering into the agreement? Why are they entering into the agreement? And what agreement basically, or what arrangement are they entering? Now here, since this is an MOU, it's not an agreement, it's a memorandum of understanding. So accordingly, we will basically draft the recital clause. And another thing is, guys, in recital clause, it always starts with the word whereas. Every statement starts with the word whereas. This is not an optional thing, it's a standard of practice and you have to maintain it. It's not something optional. It's not like if I like to use whereas, I'm going to use. Somebody does not like, they are not going to use. No, it does not work that way. You absolutely have to start your statements with the word whereas. Don't ask me why, it's a standard of practice. I don't know why. ठीक है, मुझे नहीं पता. करते हैं लोग, मैं भी करती हूँ. Simple answer. Okay, so this is the clause that I have drafted. ठीक है? Recitals, that is going to be your heading of the clause, starting with the word whereas here. So there are 2 ways you can go about it. One, use whereas, put a colon here, and then just not use whereas before every statement. Or you can choose to draft it like I have. Before every statement, I have used the word whereas. Giving you 2 minutes, look at this draft, properly. Tell me that if you are understanding how I have drafted the recitals or not. Okay? Any doubt, any question on this? Anything you think is unnecessary, I should have included? Give me that. Give me that feedback, I will include it and show it to you. Here live, here only I will show it to you. 2 minutes I am giving, carefully read this. Check the formatting, check the arrangement, chronology of statements that I have drafted. Okay? How the defined terms have been used. Everything you check. 2 minutes, pay attention here. Included or drafted the clause. 2 things let me point out. Please first always make sure your clauses have a heading like this and a uniform methodology of numbering. This clause is 2, the sub-clauses have been marked as 2.1, 2.2 and so on. So you add a point number 3 here, it will be numbered as 2.3, 2.4. This is again, there are certain things you don't ask why. Okay? There are certain things when it comes to drafting, you do it because it's a standard of practice. Your clients will expect you to stick to the standard operating procedure. That's it. Okay? That's simple. Just don't ask कि मैम ऐसे क्यों नंबर करना है, दूसरे तरीके से क्यों नहीं कर सकते. कर सकते हो, but your clients, if they are dealing with a lot of lawyers, they would know that there's a certain SOP that is there when it comes to general drafting, so they will actually expect you to know the SOPs. And our job is to teach you these SOPs. Okay? So we need to make sure that we are teaching you that. So heading and numbering and the overall formatting. If you are using Times New Roman 12, please stick to Times New Roman 12 for all clauses. Don't go like a clause where I'm at Times New Roman 12, another I'm using Arial 12, not like that. Okay? So the line spacing, formatting, all of this, these are very basic things, but believe me, there are seniors drafts, I can show it to you. Okay? Even the seniors are not aware of this. So this is where you can create a difference for your clients. So please remember. Basic outline principles to be included in the final agreement. This is proposed arrangement will basically consist of what sort of arrangement are the parties entering into at this point of time. In our factual scenario, in the first scenario, if you will observe, basically, they are going to enter into after negotiation. Okay? They are basically, their main purpose here is to test the waters before considering it the second party as a manufacturer of its product. So here the elements that we have basically given out to you, sorry, this is the second question, right? Sorry. Look at the elements that we have given out to you basically is the type of arrangement that they are entering into. Background, what is the background of that arrangement, and future prospects. There is a future prospect of a future joint venture agreement or amalgamation or merger of some sort in the second factual scenario. So these exactly are the 3 points that you will include when you are drafting the proposed arrangement clause. Okay? Term and termination clauses will consist of the duration for which the parties XYZ, any hypothetical duration you can take into account. On what grounds the agreement may be terminated tomorrow. what can be the notice period. You just don't terminate an agreement. There's a notice period, 15 days, 20 days, whatever period you want to take it does not matter. Okay, any hypothetical period of notice you can take. So just understand something here. What we are expecting you is to read the ingredients for now and accordingly draft the content. This much, if you are successfully able to do in your first assignment, it means you have understood it. So, okay? This is exactly the intention. Did you understand, all of you? Are you clear with this?